Well, Jim, with all that said, if you're ready, I think it's time to set up our watch-along now.
All righty.
Here's how we're going to do it. As always, we'll have a 5-second countdown, and then we will say, press play now, at which point you press play. Couple options for everybody. Of course, if you have the DVD, go to the beginning of the match, but I'm going to assume most people aren't using the DVD right now. So the two options are, first, on the WWE Network, if you go to the in-ring tab at the top of the page and look for Smoky Mountain Wrestling, it is the August 13th, 1994 edition of Smoky Mountain Wrestling. August 13th, 1994. 17 minutes and 27 seconds into the program, or if you have the option to jump to a segment underneath the video player, you can see that it is the fourth segment listed, Heavenly Bodies versus Thrillseekers. Once again, 17 minutes and 27 seconds. Pause it on that now, and we will press play in a short bit, but also on YouTube. Someone uploaded it. We don't know how long it'll be there. The quality isn't perfect, but if you don't want to support the WWE Network and still want to watch this match, the file name is The Heavenly Bodies versus the Thrillseekers, Smoky Mountain Wrestling, SMW in parentheses. The account is BTEEP60. BEETEEP 60. Once again, Heavenly Bodies versus the Thrillseekers, in parentheses, SMW on YouTube. It is approximately the exact same length, so we think it'll be a perfect sync between this and the version that we are watching on the WWE Network. Anything I left out, Jim?
Yeah, just get the network. It'll look better. But it'll be rotten music.
That's right. Well, if we're ready to go,
I guess I should fucking I should mute the thing here on this.
That would help.
Because this does have commentary. And by the way, Jim Ross and Les Thatcher, tremendous commentary on this whole show. They were both in their element. Les being the Knoxville expert and JR being his best at calling athletic wrestling.
And this is when Jim Ross was on hiatus from the World Wrestling Federation.
You are correct. He was the host of my television program.
Not yet.
Was this Oh, he came in and did this and then started doing the TV, right?
Because Bob Caudle did the next
That's
TV. Right. Maybe the two after that. I'm not sure, but Jim Ross would come in shortly and do TV.
Bob was getting old to make that drive all the way from fucking Raleigh, North Carolina to the wilds of Western Virginia or wherever at that point, too. Yes.
Well, funny enough, to tie it into this, Bob Caudle started confusing Storm and Jericho on commentary.
That's true. It was like, which one is that? It's Storm. Anyway, all right. This match is all set and ready to go.
Okay, 17 minutes, 27 seconds on the August 13th, 1994 edition of Smoky Mountain Wrestling on the WWE Network. We're going to have a 5-second countdown beginning right now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Press play now.
Boom. Boom. There it goes. I'm at 17:30 now. I think I lost a second. Anyway, Brian Hildebrand standing in the ring with Phil Rainey, the three heel fans in the Knoxville Civic Coliseum. Phil Rainey was, of course, the program director for WKCH Fox 43 that we were on at that point, but he was also Les Thatcher's broadcast partner for the glory days of Southeastern Wrestling. Here's my WrestleMania 10 outfit. And our standard police crew, several of those guys were big helps to me when I had to go to the police station for some period of time, for some reason or another, in Knoxville on a couple of occasions. Anyway, I see now, God damn it, I wish I'd spent some money and got our posts redone. See, our posts are leaning because we used the rings so much. They hit the ropes so much they started bending the posts. We had to have those redone after not so long after this. The Bodies had not been here in Knoxville since April. They lost the Loser Leaves to the Rock and Roll Express in Pikeville, which was one of the great matches and great finishes that we ever did. People threw the babies in the air there. So this has been May, June, July. They've been gone 4 months. So in a monthly territory with a weekly television show, that's a while.
You can see referee Mark Curtis in his suspenders. One thing that was noticeable when we were there, I don't think I've ever seen by the end of this match a referee with more blood on him than that perfectly clean referee's uniform will have at the end.
He looked like he'd been out rescuing, fucking Cambodian war victims or something by the time he got finished with that. Anyway, we did a full television shoot at this house show, obviously, because we wanted to do the videotape, which is still selling 25 years later, and we did a real good business on it at the time. So we had the truck and the crew and the whole 9 yards there, and got a TV show, our record house as a house show, a 1-hour TV show, and a 4-hour DVD out of this program. Here's the race car, and the people are thinking, oh gosh, here comes the Thrillseekers. And of course, we didn't want to cut back to the main shot until the Thrillseekers were coming in the ring. And as I said, it took a while, especially with Jericho trying to make sure nobody hit his fucking freshly broken arm. Oh, fuck. Talk about bittersweet moments. I had sick stomach. There they are finally, because the lights were off and the lights didn't come back up until they come in. Okay, anyway, I had a sick stomach on this one because I'm like, I don't know where this team is going, even if they get through this match. And now bear in mind, thank God for Tom and Jimmy. Because, and I'm not knocking Lance and Chris when I say this, and watch this now, the rocket launcher off the top, Jericho has to use his one good arm. But look at the athleticism that Lance could do. Nobody was doing shit like that in Tennessee at the time, so it wasn't overdone. And if you only have one person doing it, then it means something. But Lance and Chris had never seen these old-fashioned Southern spots before, and they didn't know how heels would feed them and how they should they didn't know the whole way of working Southern-style tag matches. So Tom and Jimmy were leading them through this whole thing, and that's why I brought them back to do that. But that now they also had the problem with Chris's fucking arm is useless, so he can't punch, and he can't really grab with both hands. So, all respect to Chris for even coming back and doing this. And I don't think he realized how bad it was at the time. But, but see here, look at the oomph. Lance is kind of clapping, but Chris got him. Chris had the babyface personality. And look at that hair. That's another thing. Nobody has hair anymore. Fuck, they all look like a bunch of skin-headed fucking morons.
You can see the difference in the lockup because of the arm right there.
Well, yeah. And see, bear in mind also, not only did Chris get back from the hospital late, but this is called in the ring. I mean, they'd gone over it. Tom and Jimmy gone over it with him beforehand, most of the stuff, but left-handed chop, a one-handed backdrop, left-handed chop. But look at Jimmy bumping. They knew they had to work extra hard to get these kids over and with a handicap. So the whole thing is about shining them and making them look as good as they could, bumping their ass off. But as I was mentioning, they'd called some of these spots, but they didn't know which order it was going to go in, and they wanted to see how Chris was going to do and what the people were going to be reacting to. So Tom and Jimmy are calling and or reminding this pretty much on the fly. And in a lot of cases, this is the first time that Lance and Chris had ever done these spots. Because, yeah, they'd had regular matches with Well Done, but they weren't in main event positions and being shined by, guys that were veterans like this. Anyway, at least Lance has two arms. But you can see Lance was great on the mat wrestling and the go behinds and stuff like this and the nip ups and everything. But you can see sometimes just there's the kick or okay. He was just still green on his timing and his execution. Spectrum Rents was a fine sponsor of Smoky Mountain Wrestling. They were good. We hung that fucking banner up, but we didn't put it on the fucking TV side because they didn't pay that much. We put it on the back side where the fans could see. I told them, I said, we can put it on the front. It's going to be on TV and on the video. Well, okay. Anyway, so Dr. Tom says, let me have him. Jimmy Del Rey was so underrated or just not respected enough for he could fucking do almost everything. It just and he worked harder than anybody, as we've talked about, than anybody there on that run he had in Smoky Mountain, because he wanted to prove something. And a little wrestling for go ahead.
But I'll tell you, day in and day out, Tom Pritchard, if he's not the best worker Smoky Mountain had, he's in the top 3. Maybe him, Tracy Smothers. I mean, Tom Pritchard was one of the MVPs every time I went down there.
Here he was the glue here, and look, and once again, boom, a double backflip, and now and Lance forgot the clotheslines. See, it's little things. And then Tom just says, fuck it, I'll just stop him and we'll do something else. But they're calling everything in the world for and now here's Chris's spot. Double suplex, but fucking Chris helps him over and they do the double kicks. But, the kicks weren't synchronized because Lance and Chris were both a little off mentally because of what had happened. But once again, you just keep going and you try to keep feeding the baby faces and showing that they can fucking do what they have said they're going to do. And pretty soon we're going to have to fucking start cheating because goddamn, we can't out wrestle these two fine young men, one of them with a broken arm.
And a good little detail after that happened, Mark Curtis went over to Jericho, the illegal man, and started basically saying you have to get out of the ring, which you wouldn't see nowadays.
Well, yes, because there's actual rules to this shit. And Brian was a tremendous referee, and he could help call the match when the green guys were in the ring because he was a better worker. See, a little reversal, boom, front ass bump, other heel feeds in for the same thing. And then here's the heat spot. Slide through, bulldog, boom. And now we take over on Lance.
Did you just shove the cameraman?
I wasn't watching. Well, I was paying him if I wanted to. I threw one of them out of the fucking locker room one time because he wasn't doing what I wanted. Anyway, dump Lance to the floor so that Jimmy can get a little steam on him outside while Jericho has the referee. That's basically we're having a basic tag match formula with these guys. We shined them to show that they could out wrestle us at every turn, and then we have to cheat and double team, but it was a legal double team. But we had to fucking cheat to take over, and now behind the referee's back, we've got Lance in bad shape. So we pulled the momentum out from under the baby faces, and now, as Dennis Condrey used to say, we made the people mad. We made the people laugh, and then we made them mad because we made them quit laughing. And one of the double team stuff, Jimmy did a good moonsault. So I said, you're comfortable backflipping anyway. What about, this way we'd put them together. What about if Tom went to give you an ass bump but flipped you over backwards? Kind of a version of the old thing where Dennis Condrey, Bobby Eaton, Dennis would pick Bobby up for a ass bump and he'd drop him in a leg drop on the guy because Bobby did a good leg drop. And as a matter of fact, and we stole that from them and boom, because Tom did too. This is easy, simple tag team shit. And this is television. So we did take a fucking break. I wonder, did we join it in progress when we come back?
Yeah.
No, we join it right there. Good. I didn't like people to miss things. Anyway, and by the way, this finish that we're going to see here shortly, this finish I researched from our Fantastics Midnight Express U.S. tag title match in Chattanooga on TV back in '88, where the referee teased stopping it. And then when all hope was lost, one of the baby faces hits the other one from behind, boom, or hits the other heel from behind, and there you go. And that was researched from a famous Jerry Lawler Bill Dundee match in the Mid-South Coliseum in 1977. If you do these things every 10 years or so, it's not overdone.
Jimmy Del Rey flipped off the fans before he came off the top rope. You okay with that, or you have a problem?
No, not really, but he did it. See, remember, Jimmy'd only been here for 3 months. He'd been doing independent shows in fucking Florida. He did everything he could think of to get heat because there was no people there. And we'd have to tell him every once in a while, Jimmy, remember it's TV or the finger, whatever. But he wasn't being malicious. I loved arguing with Brian Hildebrand because he'd give me those looks on his face. Anyway, we're just tag teaming fucking Lance Storm to death, and you can see there's bouncing Beulah's over across on the front row. She's up. People are starting to get behind him a little bit. Jericho's trying to work the apron. And I believe, at this point, I gave Tom a time cue because it was getting late. Because this fucking show was long. And remember, the Legends ceremony lasted about 30 minutes.
That was long. Yeah.
It was long. Les was in his glory, though. Okay, here we go. Tom's going to put him away here. It's all or nothing. I used to love Tom's elbows off the top were so different because he'd go straight backwards. And now look at the people. We've got an opening now for the first time. The Thrillseekers have a chance to make the tag and Lance goes to the neutral corner just like he's supposed to. Because at first he went the wrong way, and now as time, but there you go. It was a little colder than I wanted it to be. But anyway, look at Tom started to turn like he's going to hit him with his right hand, and he hit him with his left. This is the most awkward comeback ever because he's he's right-handed, and he's a one-armed man. But he's doing the best he can, right? And now what the fuck? Okay, and Jimmy slammed himself off Chris Jericho.
One-arm slam, yeah.
One-arm slam. And there we go, and boom, and we got to pull him out. See, it would have been so much better if he could fly right over the top rope. Boom, into the railing. And there he goes, left-handed to get his color.
Had he ever gotten color before?
I can't remember, because we always ask. And... I think it was one of those deals. Yeah, it was one of those deals where like Tom and Jimmy said, we can do it for you. And he's like, no, I'll do it myself. And of course he was trying to make up for, screwing the match up otherwise. So, but look, this is starting to look pretty fucking good already. But anyway, now you were in the building live. It kicked the intensity up quite a bit of this match when even the Tennessee fans that were used to seeing blood on a wrestling show start seeing him slinging that fucking head and blood is flying everywhere. They got concerned. Did they not?
They did, and you did not see this level of blood anywhere in the States. Even ECW, you never saw anything like this really during this period of time, and it got worse. There was more and more blood as the match went on. Blood on the turnbuckles, blood on the referee was everywhere.
See, this was a flashback to Ron Wright and Whitey Caldwell in the 70s. And the people there, and this was Night of Legends. A lot of those people there grew up with this kind of shit. So they were all of a sudden, it was like, shit, this wrestling's real again. Like it used to be when Ron and Whitey were wrestling. And now, boom, now Doc has those great haymakers. And look at Chris selling them. He could sell like crazy, even then. That was one thing. And Brian's getting in there, trying to stop him. Look at those fucking shots, and Chris trying to kick back. This is where the intensity really started kicking up. And Brian Hildebrand, Mark Curtis, the referee, is checking. And as a matter of fact, I think I just told him, I said, check him again for real, because I was starting to get worried at this point. I could see how fast it was coming out. But the whole idea is to get the people so worried about what's happening to Jericho that they will accept if the referee wants to try to stop the match, that the heat will go on the heels and not the referee. And as Brian keeps backing him up in there, I gave him a little shot in the fucking mouth, right? As he continues to sell, now he's trying to fight for the tag, fight to get to the corner. This is tag team wrestling. You got it. And we announced, by the way, I forgot, we announced the reason why that he was hurt. We said he had broken his wrist in a motorcycle accident, being a thrill seeker. And so the people already know that he's fucked up, plus he's bleeding. Plus now the heels are just beating the piss out of him. And they're starting to get concerned. And now there's a level of applause when he weakly fucking kicks out. As a matter of fact, no, the people in the house didn't know that he had a broken arm. Said that on commentary.
Yeah, we didn't know.
The people in the house just obviously saw that he was not using his fucking hand. Nice knee drop.
Look at how much blood is in the ring. Look at the ring.
Oh, yeah. Watch this one now.
Ooh.
Boom. Doc was right there. You could not see through that shit. There was no daylight. And boom. And you say it was wiping the fucking blood off his head. Quickly to be replaced by more. And the frustration on Tom's face. What the fuck? What have I got to do? in the body language when he picks a guy up and runs him into the turnbuckle. He's fucking pissed. And boom, and Jericho still fighting back enough to where he's not dead, but now you see him, and that's the thing. He's got his arms over the ropes, and he's slumped, and now Brian's really checking the cut. And JR and them and Les are doing a great job on the announcing, saying how much can he take? Might this be a permanent injury? Is the cut near his eye? It's like a boxing match at this point. Brian's asking him, can you continue? Can you continue? And you see the look on Brian's face. Look at the blood on his hands. And now Jimmy goes to work and just fucking throwing him. And finally, the referee says, fuck it. That's it. That's enough. You can't do this. As a matter of fact, Jimmy would not. He was really trying to fucking get Jimmy to go back so he could check it one more time and ring the bell, and Jimmy wouldn't fucking stop. So now he calls for the bell. I'm stopping it. His eyesight. He can't continue. The people are, this is bullshit, right? What the fuck? And now look at Chris. Pleading, on his knees, pleading. He's supposed to be fucking shaking his head, no, don't do this to me. But he's, okay, there you go, no. And he's supposed to be begging, praying with his hands, but of course one of his arms is broken. So now the announcer said, wait a minute, Jericho's asking for it to continue. And the referee said, tells Phil Rainey, yes, the match will go on. Now's where the people fucking, okay. And now Jimmy wades back into him. And now we got to go pretty much after this. And right there, the camera misses it. But when the referee turns around, super kick by Lance, boom, Jimmy schoolboyed himself over the top of the guy with the broken arm, 1, 2, 3, and they won. What it was originally going to be was Jimmy set Chris up for something and Lance come off the top rope with a drop kick. But, you know, since Chris was almost dead, we did it that way. And Chris was actually weak from loss of blood, so he couldn't really schoolboy well. So Jimmy just fell over the back of it or over the top of him and pinned himself. But now look, and the fucking fans are, they're like, shit, as he goes down, they're normally patting people on the back, right? But fuck, they didn't want to get close to him. He looked like a fucking zombie. And I'm arguing with Brian Hildebrand, the referee, how can you justify stopping it and starting it just to make sure that he fucking again says, I did what I did because it was right, and fuck you, and they're the winners. And boom.
This is
and
great.
the people, yeah.
Right
and the
here.
people like that. And then I'm fucking mad and I'm kicking that fucking, and goddamn, that turnbuckle was harder than I thought. And there we are, and we're out.
There we are.
You know, it wasn't a great technical match because you had green baby faces and one guy with a broken arm. So there was some things that looked screwy, but for the emotion and the passion and the meaning behind it, which is the whole thing, everybody there felt like they got their fucking money's worth. And goddamn, the fucking Thrillseekers were over when they left the building that night. If Chris could have followed up on it, I think they would have had a better time from that point out, but it wasn't meant to be. But the people appreciated that effort. I think you can vouch for.
And I have to say, you know, it's easy to forget it, but it was so jarring how much blood there was, and it happened so quickly. We were the smart fans, and we were sitting there like, oh my God. I mean, this is like the Great Muta. Like, there's very few people, the Muta scale of blood, you know, the very few people you've ever seen bleed that much. It was all over the ring. It was all over Jimmy and Tom. It was all over Brian Hildebrand's hands and outfit. It was everywhere.
And then the next year at the Super Bowl of Wrestling, the August big show in Knoxville, instead of the Night of Legends, we had another one. It was Tom Pritchard that bled like a stuck hog to the point where Shawn Michaels got in the ring to wrestle Buddy Landell afterwards, and one of the turnbuckles, top turnbuckles, was just covered completely with fucking blood, and Michaels was bitching about it, and Hildebrand had to go get a towel and fucking wipe it off and everything. But in the Heavenly Bodies match, it came to be for 2 or 3 years in a row, it came to be an annual occasion that somebody was going to fucking bleed out in that match.
This match was one of the best spectacles I ever saw live. And again, you need to hear the crowd reactions to do it justice. Being in the room, you felt the emotion. But the Bodies and the Thugs in '95 was one of the best matches I ever saw live.
Yeah, that one, because you had all four guys had all their limbs intact, and you had four experienced guys, and that was one of the best tag team matches we ever had in Smoky Mountain. We might watch that one sometime at some point. And I guess, well, as a matter of fact, you may be one of the few living individuals, great Brian Last, who saw live ECW crowds at the ECW arena and live Smoky Mountain Wrestling crowds in Knoxville close the show for us instead of me doing all the work. What was the difference? The difference in the crowds, the difference in the way they reacted, the difference in the way in what they reacted to.
It's unfair to even compare the two crowds because it was so radically different. Philadelphia versus Knoxville. The fans in Smoky Mountain came to watch a night of wrestling. The fans in ECW, there were fans that came to be a part of the show, but they came just to be a part of a spectacle, just to see, what is this going to be the surprise tonight? What are we going to see that we don't expect tonight? What is going to be the crazy high spot tonight? You know, a lot of people focus on the hardcore stuff, but ECW mixed a lot of different things at a lot of different times. Lucha Libre, Sabu, who became a sensation around that period of time. You had Terry Funk. You had the promos of Shane Douglas. But, it's really unfair to compare the fan bases because you had a smarter Northeast fan base, many of which read either the newsletters or some of which wrote newsletters versus, when we were the smart fans in Knoxville, if there were a handful of other fans in that building who knew what was going on behind the scenes, I would be surprised. No one knew.
Do you think that's why that we had more of them than Paul did? Paul could get higher ticket prices for fewer people, and we could get more people because they were regular wrestling fans and they didn't know what the fuck was going on.
Like I said, it's really hard. I mean, it's easier to compare the two promotions and what they were producing and looking back on those television shows now than it is to compare the fan bases because it's just so radically different, and it is North versus South.
Terry Funk was wrestling for both of us at the same time. In Philadelphia, the fans would carry Terry out on their shoulders, no matter who he wrestled. But in Knoxville, because he was fighting Bullet Bob Armstrong, they wanted to cut the fucking tires on his car.
There weren't a lot of things that happened in ECW that the fans believed. Like, the examples I could think of are when Shane Douglas shook Gary Wolf when he had the halo on for the broken neck.
Yeah.
There were fans legit hot there. Looking back, this just seems insane. When Tommy Dreamer blinded the Sandman, the smart fans in Philly believed it. There were smart fans saying, oh yeah, he had a blade and it accidentally went into his eye because he didn't expect the cane shot.
Oh my God.
He'll never see again. So, there were few and far between the angles that people actually believed in. It was more they just wanted to see this highlight reel of different styles of wrestling. With Smoky Mountain, the fans reacted when they believed. And, they believed that the Bodies and the Thrillseekers was a blood feud. The main event that night, which was great, it was Road Warrior Hawk, Tracy Smothers, and Bob Armstrong versus the Funks and Bruiser Bedlam. You wouldn't see a match like that in ECW. It's so completely different, the two companies, even though they exist at the same time.
What do you think if you just told the people in Philadelphia, but the big pop of the night is going to be when the retired old wrestler turned manager Ron Wright fucking ends up punching Jim Cornette and waving his fucking flag so his team loses. That's the biggest pop of the night. The Funks won't get the big pop. Ron Wright will.
Well, I'll give you an example. The best match at Night of Legends, and this will probably surprise some people, but I was there. There were lots of really good matches. The Rock and Roll, Candido and Lee, really good match. The best match in terms of the reaction in the building, and it just really, you're watching a match, was Ron Garvin.
I know which one you're going.
Yeah, it was Ron Garvin and the Mongolian Stomper against Dick Slater and Bob Orton Jr. That match wouldn't have worked in Philadelphia in 94, but it worked perfectly in Knoxville in 94. And it was a great match.
It was the best match of the night. And if fucking Mac McMurray, our wrestling referee legend, hadn't seen the fucking last false tag and allowed it, it would have been even a bigger pop at the finish. And I fucking hated because it was a perfect tag team match with four of the most talented guys in the business that could still go. Yeah, that was the best match of the night. And people in Philly would have been, what the fuck? And it tore the house down in Knoxville. You see, that's why that wrestling was always meant to be a territory system, because what works in one part of the country does not work in the other. And all the promoters educated their fans to this type of wrestling that they would like and that they could present them. And now that's all been lost, and everybody does the same shit everywhere and looks at it the same way. But yeah, can you imagine if any of the fans had known that I was the booker? If any of these 4,243 people in that building, past the 30 people that came for Fan Week and 10 people that have been around since God created wrestling, knew that I was the booker, they probably would have, it would have made them mad, and they wouldn't have come and bought a ticket.
That's right.
And but in Philadelphia, the only reason they were buying a ticket wasn't because of the wrestling in a lot of cases, because who the booker was.